Okay. I'm Terry Ackerman from the Select Board, and I'm going to turn this meeting over to you guys. I just want to apologize for how it took so long to get this meeting. We had some staff turnover and some issues in the town manager's office, and that was the delay. So thank you so much for your patience. I'm glad you all got sworn in. I'm glad you're here tonight. And why don't we go around and do introductions? I think that's the first thing on the agenda. And then I guess you guys can elect officers, and then we can take off from there. Why don't we just go around? Nick Pappas, you're first, the first window in my screen.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Nick Pappas. Let's see, sort of relevant background. I worked in the long range plan where I did a lot of work on transportation, and prior to that, I was in the Public Works Commission, and these days I'm also on Natural Resources Commission. So that's why I'm here. I worked on transportation.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Let's see, who do we have next? Is Laura Davis.
Hi, I'm Laura Davis. I live near Verrill Farm in Concord, and I think maybe one of the most relevant things to my experience related to transportation is we're a one-car family, and we do most of our commuting by bicycle around town with our 3-year-old. So I have an electric e-bike. And I also was the liaison to the Climate Action Advisory Board for Mothers Out Front, a community group during the planning process that brought us the Climate Action and Advisory Plan. So I'm very familiar with that part of the town.
Great. Michelle Cardinal.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle Cardinal. My day job is sort of advertising and marketing, but I have a sort of personal passion, I guess, for sort of transportation and some of the issues that that we can hopefully work on together. I recently moved here from San Francisco and was actually quite involved in a lot of sort of community engagement in sort of our previous location, related to school and traffic flow and lots of very thin one-way streets in San Francisco. So actually, was able to make some progress there, and was excited to participate in this committee and hopefully be a part of this now too. So good to see you all.
Thank you, Michelle. Kathleen Fasser.
Hello, everyone. I apologize up front. I have a cold, so if I sound funny, that's why. So I have lived in Concord for 15 years, and I've got seniors at 3 seniors at the high school. I am a licensed professional landscape architect with a master's in landscape and ecological planning. Most of my work is public work, so I design parks and waterfronts and streetscapes and trails. So and also work very hard at public engagement process. So this kind of it's right up my alley, and I'm really looking forward to working with everybody on the committee. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, we have Bill Posner.
Evening, everybody. My name's Phil Posner. I live in West Concord. I've been living in Concord for 10 years. My son is a grad of CCHS. I have served in one role before in Concord as a member of the Concord Housing Development Corporation, and for many years was a member of the Wakefield Conservation Commission. I'm also a member of Concord Bikes, and as you may or may not know, Concord Bikes is very interested in safe and comfortable bicycling in the town. And as a part of that, I got interested in the transportation issue. So looking forward to working with you all.
Okay, thank you, Phil. Norm Abbott.
Hi, everybody. My name is Norman Abbott. I work in the federal government and have sort of a background in government doing transportation and transportation related policy. I live over in Concord by the Concord Museum. Look forward to working with everybody.
Thank you, Norm. Dan Schrager.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dan Schrager. I live in East Concord, near the Bedford line. I abut the Reformatory Branch Trail, and I own a number of bikes for a variety of purposes. I hike the trails of Concord regularly. My career has been in aviation, and I have been very involved with aviation safety counselor. And I am just interested. I've been on the Concord Cultural Council, which is my official town responsibilities in the past, but I'm involved with a number of local nonprofits, and I have a great interest in safety and transportation. So look forward to working with you all.
Thank you, Dan. And Erin, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. I'm Erin Stevens. I am the Public Information and Communications Manager for the town. I have an interest in transportation planning, so that's why I am the staff person who helps out on the committee. I apologize for my 3 screens earlier if you saw multiple of me and my the squeaking noise that it was making. I was having some computer problems and having to switch between several screens to try to get everything moving. So thanks for your patience.
Thanks, Erin. And your name says Kate Hodges, but
yeah, I'm on Kate's account.
Sure. Okay. So again, thank you all for your patience and for attending tonight. And there are several ways to elect officers. We need to elect a chair. You can elect a vice chair if you want, and you have to elect a clerk. Or you can have a rotating clerk, and people can take turns. So just very briefly, the chair organizes the meetings, puts the agenda together, works with Erin to get the meeting posted, gets all the materials ready, runs the meeting and keeps order during the meeting. And the clerk is responsible for taking the minutes or taking notes and working with Erin on making sure they're accurate, and then getting them posted for approval and on the website. Does anyone have any questions about the officer positions?
I just want to note that for tonight's meeting, I'm taking minutes. So whoever's elected clerk's off doesn't have to do it tonight.
Thank you, Erin. And we'll look forward to your help. Whoever is clerk will rely on you heavily. Thank you. So if anyone would like to nominate yourself or another member or chair, go right ahead.
I would, yeah. Hi.
Yeah.
Yes, I'd like to nominate myself. And the main reason for that is I worked heavily on transportation in the Envision Concord long range plan. And I'd like to carry that forward and help the Transportation Advisory Committee get into that, just help the group. And also, I think I'm known by people around town, the various departments, and for my work on transportation, among other things. So I think it would be a good starting point.
I second that. I second that. I was going to nominate Nick as well. His reputation does precede him. So,
Whoops.
no, in a positive way.
Okay. Are there any further nominations for chair?
I make
Okay,
a motion to have a vote.
right. So we are on Zoom. We need to have a roll call vote. So I guess we'll go around, starting with you, Phil.
I vote aye for Nick as chair.
Okay. Norman? Whoops, you're on mute.
Aye.
Okay, Dan,
Aye.
Kathleen,
Aye.
Michelle,
Aye, for Nick.
Laura,
Aye.
and Nick.
Aye.
Okay, so it's unanimous. Nick, you can take over running the meeting. Thank you again, everybody.
Okay, one question. There's some confusion about the charge, I gather, that what was-
Sorry, before we get to that, we have to elect a clerk.
oh, sorry. Well, I'm running it, I guess. So anyone want to volunteer or nominate anyone for clerk?
As I said, you can have a clerk.
Yeah.
Oh, Phil might be volunteering. Okay,
Is that,
Phil, you're on mute.
I'll volunteer to be the clerk.
thank you, Phil. And take a vote.
Thank you, Phil.
Roll call vote. Norm,
Lottie's doing.
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
I think his screen froze.
Your
Aye.
screen froze.
Sorry.
Okay. Phil, Dan,
Aye.
Michelle,
Aye.
Laura,
Aye.
Kathleen,
Aye.
and I'm an aye, and Phil?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you, Phil. Thank you for volunteering.
Welcome.
Okay, yeah, so the charge, Terry, some help here. I gather that what's been around is sort of what I've seen at least is a combination of a previous edition with edits in it. And do we have a clean charge, or does it have to go back to the select board for an official vote, or what's the situation?
I'm going to, I see Erin has her hand up.
Yeah, so the charge that I put onto the town's website is the one that was given to me by Chris Carmody. That is the latest one that he could find. I don't know if Jeremy, prior to leaving, had another one that he had worked on and had finished. But if there is a newer one, I don't have it. We can certainly make changes to that.
Okay, I suggest then that what we do is that we'll go with what we have for the moment. And Terry, if you and the select board could clean it up, there's at least one misspelling in there where it says multi-model instead of multimodal, among other things. That would be great.
Okay, and if I could just comment, Erin, if you have time, the select board did make a number of changes, as Tanya's letter points out. You might be able to go back to the video and confirm those changes. I guess, I don't know what the easiest way to do this is, but the select board already discussed it all. It's just not posted correctly on the web. So it's an administrative job. Erin, why don't you and I talk offline and we'll see, clean it up. I don't think we need another select board meeting. Hopefully not, anyway.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll follow up with you, Terry.
okay.
Thank you.
So
Nick,
does everyone have a copy of the charges so that they know what we're talking about? Or Erin, can you put up on the screen what we have?
Just give me a moment.
Sure.
Nick, it's my understanding that ultimately the select board will have to approve the final version though, correct?
Yeah, I assume that's a
we
formality. If
did.
there's no significant change.
Yeah.
They
I
probably-
think it's already done, at least based on what I saw on the town website. There was a red line strikeout
Yeah,
version.
but it has errors in it.
Yeah, with the
Yeah.
end.
I think, Dan, that we did approve a final version, but the wrong version is posted on the website.
May I say something?
Tanya wants to say something about that.
If I may, Nick?
Yes, Tanya?
Thank you. The draft version that everyone is talking about was the draft that was in the select board's meeting materials for the September 7th meeting. And then there's the video and there's the exact verbatim corrections that I sent to the select board and to some of you, and I asked Erin to forward it to all of you. I sort of did the work to simplify for everyone else. Whatever I put in there in my note in red is actually what was literally said at the select board meeting it's right before the select board voted. So in a way, Terry is right. It was already voted on, but this is not what was voted on. This was what was presented to be discussed, and then it was amended further and then voted on.
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I just want to talk about this charge as it stands at the moment. And I just want to go over the first section, the background. I'm not going to read this in detail, but I think what's important is what's behind it, which is that, you know, in the United States, we have a transportation system, if you'd call it that, that's largely heavily subsidized automobiles, and done it through public roads, for subsidies for gas, for things for manufacturers of automobiles. It's a huge part of the economy. And what we tried to do in the plan was to step outside of that paradigm as it currently is and consider mobility, people getting around, and what is really needed and what Concord aspires to. And, you know, unfortunately, the current system has devolved into the fact that families feel they need 2 and 3 cars if they have children of high school age or older. And, you know, that's really sad. So what we've tried to do here is in the long range plan was to focus on mobility for everyone, no matter what their economic situation was, no matter what their physical situation was, and to try to develop a more equitable system that isn't so heavily focused on what has been and all the problems that it has created, like traffic and parking. So that's what this first part is really about. And you know, it dreams of what it might be like, and you'll find various things in the long range plan, various references to improvements in mobility in Concord. Now, if we could scroll down to the 8 bulleted items, Erin, thank you. Okay, so the first one, and I think what this one is trying to say, as I read it, because it wasn't totally clear to me, is what current tools are in use throughout the town by the departments, anyone, boards, anyone, and what are these tools, what initiatives, what things like complete streets are we engaged in or not engaged in, and who's doing them, how well is it going, do they work, you know, what are the numbers? And the select board just wants to be better informed on that. We as a transportation advisory committee need to be better informed on that. We need to know what the pieces are as the world is now. And down on the second one, I just summarized that as what do the existing committees think we should be doing, or what are they doing? What there's sort of a data gathering, I guess. Certainly committees such as the commission, such as the Public Works Commission and the Public Works Department are heavily involved in infrastructure. So I know that they have desires and opinions, and we need to understand those. And the third one, funding. Where's the money? How can we get more of it for transportation? And you know, there are state and regional programs. There are things that are happening in other towns that we might be able to connect to and have started to connect to. So we need to have an inventory of that to help the town management, the select board understand what the possibilities are. There's even one thing that occurred to me was in Boston, the Rose Fitzgerald Greenway is funded by a structure that was set up by the state. I forget what the name of it is, but it's basically the businesses that are and the organizations that abut that area contribute voluntarily to a fund that provides most of the money for the Rose Fitzgerald Greenway. And I don't see why we can't figure out how to do something like that in Concord. There are clearly entities that benefit greatly from the way Concord is. Let me see, that was number 4 is number 4, explore multimodal, MODAL, transportation options within and through Concord. I guess things were very different before the pandemic. And there were thoughts of many, many things about transportation, including how we could do a better job of connecting to the commuter rail, and handing people off from commuter rail to other ways of getting around town, or accessing the national park or the cultural institutions. So that's a possibility. And that's going to tie in a lot to number 8 when we get to it. Number 5, how we operate. Keep in mind, number 5, balance the opportunities throughout Concord with our goals for everything: environmental sustainability, stewardship of historic and cultural resources. One of the things that's missing, as an example, one of the things that's missing from the committee as we're currently constituted is we don't have anyone from any of the cultural, historical, artistic organizations as part of it. So we need to figure out how to connect into that. Other sectors of the town, the business community. And number 6, how the town can enhance local transportation action with existing resources. The old do more with less, or at least the same amount. I'm sure there are things we can do within the current budgets. We have to figure out what they are and find out from the departments what they think. And 7, explore ways to benefit from neighboring communities, regional and state efforts. Yes, there is a program, Crosstown Connect, which sadly we have not been part of. And there are other things like that. There are many businesses that have private shuttles. There are organizations within the town that have shuttles that are privately funded. We need to understand what those are, what the scope is of what they do and what their rules are. And finally, and I think perhaps the first thing we need to work on is develop a public education and input process. And Erin, I would ask you, what we can do to set up an easy way for the community to send us their thoughts and ideas or their opinions and whatever. Okay.
Sure, there's a couple of different things that we could definitely do. If you want to just have a place for people to send things, we could always set up some sort of a survey or a form on the website. That would be pretty easy. We could always set up a committee email, things like that. There's a couple different ways that we can explore.
Yeah, I think something simple like an email to start. I wouldn't construct a questionnaire or a form until we figure out what decisions we need to make, or what advice.
No,
we need
we
to
can
make.
set. What I meant is that we could set up a form that's like an email and that it asks for the same
Right.
information. Sorry, my dog is howling. But it provides a different format so that it's captured in a different way.
Okay, thank you. So any comments, thoughts on the charge from anyone? Everyone loves it.
So before getting to the charge, this is real brief. I'm not sure if there is a raised hand thing that can be done. That's under reactions in this particular Zoom program. I think it might be a good idea just to, as we on a going forward basis, to figure out how we recognize people. So it's kind of straightforward. So I'll just leave it to you, Nick, to deal with the administrative stuff, or we can talk about it.
Yeah, what I think I think what works well in some groups is to have a discussion among the committee members and then open it up for public comment. And rather than having everyone jump in at once, we're here as a committee to try to develop thoughts and ideas. It's good to get our ideas out and then see how it can be improved by public comment, or what people think of what we're saying and doing.
So I do have a few comments on the charge. And this is kind of an outgrowth of my participation in the former committee. For those of you looking at the document with the red line strikeout version, The old version of this committee included mostly staff people, and then there were two citizen representatives, one of whom was me. Currently, the charge indicates that the town manager and the school superintendent or her designee will be ex officio members. I don't want to reinvent any wheels here, but I think it's worth asking the select board to either consider modifying the charge or directing the staff, or asking the town manager, the acting town manager, to direct the staff to include the DPW director or that person's designee, the police chief and that person's designee, and the director of planning and that person's designee, because those are really the key staff agencies that are part of the transportation picture in the town. And unless they have a seat at the table, know what we're doing, have an opportunity to comment and, do some real-time reality checking for us, I'm concerned that, we may go far down the path and not have good prompt feedback. So, Terry, that's my comment in terms of who's going to participate here. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that the charge anticipated that there would be subcommittees, and there was a bicycle subcommittee that was formed but then disbanded. And just to so that everyone had heard this, that committee was originally 3 members. It was an unworkable number because we could never get a quorum. And so my hope is that at some future date, we'll have an opportunity to revisit the idea of having a bicycling subcommittee with 5 or 7 members. There was a discussion about the membership of the subcommittee, and I think it was generally agreed that subcommittees did not have to be populated by people who were appointed as full members of this Transportation Advisory Committee. And the precedent for that was the subcommittees to the West Concord Advisory Committee. There were some subcommittees of that group that include people who are not members of the West Concord Advisory Committee, but are, part of the subcommittees that committee formed. So the last thing that I'm going to say, just as a sort of a big picture, to kind of add on to what Nick said, is that there were a couple of other important contextual things that I just want to throw on the table, and that is that everything that we do is within the framework of pre-existing legal and regulatory rules and policies that are either at the state or at the federal level. So, I think it would be useful as we go forward for all of us to become informed about what the state and federal rules are, so that we can make recommendations that are either consistent with those rules, or where we want to break the rules, or we want to change the rules. We know what we have to do in order to accomplish that. So the specific on that had to do with an issue that came up in the former Transportation Committee, and that was why the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit signs are posted all over the town, and 15 feet away from those 25-mile-an-hour speed limit signs, there is a different speed limit. And if you think about it, if you drive into town from any of the adjoining towns, you're going to see one of those signs. And in almost every instance, you're going to see a second sign with a different speed limit. So not only is that confusing to motorists, but there's an issue there which we can tackle. So I've talked enough, and I'm going to try to shut up for the rest of the meeting, I promise.
Okay, thank you, Phil. Anyone else comments on the charge?
Yes, this is Kathleen, if I may, Nick. I just wanted to respond to a few things that Phil had brought up. Thank you, Phil, for being so thoughtful about the charge. The first one relative to having additional presence at our meetings from the DPW, the fire chief and planning, absolutely critical to communicate with them. And this is just a question of what other ways we could accomplish that without necessarily having them at the meetings, or perhaps it's regularly come to the meetings so that there aren't so many cooks in the kitchen, so to speak. So it might be worth thinking through the different ways of getting to that same goal, which I think is an important one.
Yeah, if I could jump in, it's a good comment. I like that comment because when Phil said it, I really got that the desire was to basically shorten the feedback loop. Instead of we say something, then we wait a month or 2 weeks for somebody to read it and respond, we can have them involved. So maybe the thing is to have agenda topics, and when we need someone to cover an agenda, to be included in the discussion for the topic, that we specifically request someone's attendance. So for instance, if we had something coming up involving public safety, we would ask the police chief or the fire chief or whoever might be relevant to send someone to the meeting who's empowered to have a discussion on the topic.
And then I had another comment I want to make, actually also relative to subcommittees. I think what is underlying our charge that is extremely important to remember is that almost everywhere it is about being multimodal. And I don't think that we should have, I would recommend we not have any subcommittees that are about any one user group, because in and of itself, it's antithetical to our charge regarding it being trying to accommodate multiple users, these multiple goals for the town. I would suggest instead that any subcommittee, should we as a group decide we need one, should be based on a project or topic or a study and that type of thing. I think specific user groups or stakeholder groups is not in keeping with what we should be doing. So sorry, Phil, it's just another perspective, but I want to throw it out there.
Well, that's
That
a
was
good
it.
comment. At least we need to think carefully about that if we create any subcommittees. Good point. Anyone else?
I had a question for Phil, Nick. Phil, thanks for the analysis of this, but in terms, were you proposing that the various town representatives become voting members of the committee?
Not necessarily, but as a sort of an administrative matter, it strikes me that unless the staff has a stake in the committee and is tasked with being obliged to participate, they won't do so. And
Well,
that's a concern.
I think though, there's a risk of diluting ourselves if we have too many people and they're all voting members. I mean, we've been tasked as a group to work on a specific functional area of need in the town. And my preference would be to bring people in as we need them to participate in the development of some particular thought or idea, or to educate us or whatever we need. I also fear it would be very difficult. Those departments they work heavily. They're heavily burdened with work. Let me say it that way. And they attend many night meetings in the evening. And I'm reluctant to ask them to attend one more in a newly formed group.
So I guess to be clear, I actually agree with your view, Nick. But I think maybe what I was thinking was an expectation setting on the part of the town manager or the Board of Selectmen, so that and I'll be blunt about it, if we were to ask the planning director to attend the meeting, the understanding from management and from the elected board is that she or her designee would be obliged to attend. And that, that expectation would be part of the job description. So I
Yeah.
absolutely understand, so to speak, maybe
But if we,
formal
Phil,
job description.
if we make that request and someone from the department, any department comes and they sit there through a whole meeting where we discuss almost nothing relevant to their department, there's going to be some resentment.
I guess what I'm not being clear, and I'm sorry that I'm not being clear. I think that their participation for the specific, matter on our agenda would be where that person would attend, as
Okay,
opposed to
okay, I agree
waiting
with that.
from
Yeah.
7 o'clock till 9 o'clock, like you're sitting at the Board of Appeals waiting for your zoning variance hearing to come up.
Right.
So I certainly understand that and respect it, because I do agree that the town staff has quite a bit of water that they carry on a daily basis. And I'm not proposing that, we add to that burden.
No, okay, that's great. I do want to, I thank you for bringing it up, because it does help cut down on the feedback if we can get people involved when a topic involving the department comes up. So good idea. Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Okay, so we've discussed the charge. And Terry, select board correspondence from November 8th packet attached. So, okay, so that was these various things. Was it your expectation, Terry, that we should discuss these all, or just, can we just figure out what to do about them? I hadn't seen, I guess I hadn't noticed them before today.
I think they're FYI. These are some of the types of issues that the committee will be dealing with.
Good, okay. So we could consider this as our first round of input. And Erin would help me set up some sort of place we can keep these, and then sort them into topics that we are going to discuss at future meetings.
Right, like, for example, we've already talked a little bit about Tanya's email about the bicycling subcommittee. We talked about that a little already. And we get lots of letters about the reformatory branch. That's something definitely we need the transportation committee to work on. So actually, and then, I don't know if Erin, if you put this list together of prior transportation resources at the end, that's very interesting.
That was something that Phil Posner actually put together.
Oh, thanks, Phil.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's
And,
also on the website for anybody who wants to follow along.
okay, thanks, Phil. And the very first one, this is something that should probably go on your agenda at some point. The cemetery committee, it's a committee that I would not have thought of in terms of transportation. It gives you an idea of the depth and breadth of the stuff that you're going to have to take on, that your work will touch upon almost every other committee in town. And there are many people affected by transportation. So it's a good example of the type of thing that will be coming up. But that one in particular, you want to have on an agenda sooner rather than later, because we got this letter a couple months ago now.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. So the correspondence, so we should put that on, I'll work that with Erin and we'll have a discussion on that soon. Overview of Envision Concord. Well, I made a little speech about what was behind what we did in Envision Concord. I'm happy to discuss it further, or or hear other people's comments on what was done. Any thoughts, any comments, any questions?
I'd love to ask maybe a sequencing question. So I was reading the Envision Concord document, and then I guess the charge that you were just sharing is the way to look at these two things together. So the Envision Concord document was completed. The charge then for this committee sort of builds on that. Like, does that factor in? I mean, I counted sort of all there's like 49 actions, right, in the Envision Concord in the transportation section. So are those actions then accounted for in the charge, or will we need to, I'm assuming, sort of do a bit of reconciliation on sort of the high level charge, and then that sort of the components then in the Envision Concord statement?
Okay, let me answer as well as I can. And Terry, please correct me or edit what I say. So the Envision Concord plan was published, and it had some very good ideas in it. And then the pandemic hit. And a lot of the things we thought about, the dreams we had, the things we articulated were sort of, they weren't the most important thing anymore. And, things started to recover over the last many months. And the select board felt that we needed to start working on these things. But also what's true is there has never been a town focus, a departmental focus on the issue of mobility, transportation. So there wasn't a natural place, a natural department or pair of departments that could pick things up and start carrying them forward. So there's been, in a sense, lost time. Okay, so that, Terry, that's my view. What would you say?
I think that summarizes it really well. I would just add, in Envision Concord, you have, I think, 8 sections, like how affordable housing, cultural, etc. But then you also have a cross section with that, these things called big ideas. And one of the big ideas is transportation, because it affects all of the sectors. And I am really excited that this group is a diverse group that's going to get to work on those things. And if I could share my screen for a minute, I do have a list. I don't know if I'm going to be able to share my screen. Let's see if I can or not.
By the way, Michelle, did you have a copy of did you make a list of the 40 items?
I just I looked at them and just noticed it was a few, so I just scanned the. But I was looking at the ones in the in the transportation section essentially,
Right,
and I was
okay.
just thinking about how to tackle them and prioritize. So,
Okay, thanks.
yeah, there's like 5 sections, and there's maybe a couple you.
Okay. So right in the middle, can everybody see the cursor
Mhm.
where it says Junction Park? These are some issues that have come to the select board that we need a committee to work on. Junction Park. The Bruce Freeman Rail Trail people are now working on that. But I think that they could use some advice from you guys as well. The reformatory branch. Some of these things are all multimodal and they're multi-stakeholders. They're big, big policy issues. Regional transportation like Crosstown Connect that I think Nick mentioned. Complete streets. I know Phil is really involved in that. Our CPW has started on that, but we have a really long way to go to understand what it is, to decide how much of it are we going to do, how much are we going to pursue funding, how much of it is a priority. Same with cut through traffic. And the new Thoreau Depot area is going to be rezoned. What about transportation there? one of the main reasons it's going to be rezoned is the MBTA has a new rule. You have to have affordable housing near the train stop. So this is a perfect opportunity to accomplish multimodal transportation, affordable housing, better zoning, better economic vitality. But you guys are going to have a big role in that. Another one that's come up recently is, should we have mountain bike trails? So we need a policy board that's going to take a look. The old transportation committee looked at specific issues like the Sudbury Road crossing, and they put in a crosswalk there, which the neighborhood is thrilled with. That's great. But we need a policy board to take a look at all the stakeholders involved in these kinds of things and decide what are the priorities, how do we get funding, what's the long-term plan. And 2 paragraphs here are from the select board goals. Identify and implement opportunities for enhancing and coordinate the efforts of town bodies to support complete streets. So this whole section here is on my computer because we were going to have a select board meeting to figure out all of this stuff. Well, that didn't happen. Now what we'd like to do is have you guys work on this stuff for several months, then give us some recommendations, and then the select board will have a public forum with you guys where we invite the public and we get input on all of this stuff.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you. If you send
okay.
this to Erin and she can send it out.
Pardon?
So
Someone said something and I didn't hear it. I'm sorry.
well, I don't know. Phil figured out how to raise his hand, so I feel like Phil should Phil should go first.
All right, there's hands up. Sorry, I didn't see the hands. Go ahead, Phil. Phil?
You're on mute. You're muted.
Under the smiley face icon, which is labeled reactions, there is a hand raise button. One other thing that occurred to me in this laundry list of things that we're thinking about, and this is an issue that's kind of it's sort of important to me. I think we need to be mindful of folks who are seniors and who may have disabilities and their mobility issues as well. You know, we're a town that has a fairly large population of seniors. We also have quite a number of people who have mobility challenges. And I'm hoping that we can, as we think about what we're proposing, keep that in mind and be mindful of that population. The other thing I was wanting to just throw out there is one of the things that I did in participating in the old committee was I made a number of telephone calls to the towns in the region who have similar committees. So this is not the first Transportation Advisory Committee, and certainly won't be the last. But I do think it would be worth it for us as we proceed to put on our agenda. Here's what Acton has done, here's what Lecton has done, that kind of thing, so that we can learn from them and avoid having to reinvent wheels where we don't, where we can avoid that trap.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. And Kathleen?
Thank you, Nick. To circle back to what Michelle's question, part of Michelle's question, I think our first charge, number 1 on that list, refers to Envision, so it is right in there together. And then you were asking Nick about what all we might be thinking about what's in the Envision report. And I took some time to read through all of that. And I think it would be great if this team can work together to come up with a way to approach such a large mass of things. Nick, you pointed out right away some what I call low-hanging fruit. Let's get something right on the website so that people can start to give us input from day one, right? That's what I would call low-hanging fruit. Easy to do, starts us rolling, gets people involved right away. And it seems to me that there's what Terry pointed out was that, we have a charge to come back to them with a plan or policy, and that breaking down all of the actions that are in the Envision plan would be a good way to start it. For example, some of them are studies that need to be done. Some of them are plans that need to be formulated. And one of the things that I think you touched on that is really important to start with is the gathering of information, and just getting it all in everyone's hands so we really understand what's out there. I think, Phil, you touched on it as well, as a place to start. But I think if the committee could work on how we tackle the big project ahead of us, which is very important to the town, as Terry outlined, that would be a great first step.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Your hand's still up, Kathleen. There we go. Anyone else? That's it. Okay. Review available materials for use going forward. I think we've just sort of done that. So just to summarize, I'll work with Erin and we'll make sure we have a way for people to send us thoughts, ideas, complaints, questions. And we'll take what Terry has shown us and other things we have, and Erin and I will set up some sort of a structure so that we can hold on to that, characterize it, know where it came from, and begin to maybe just have a discussion about it. Like, what are we going to do? So that, I think that's the step there. Next topic, set future meeting dates. So the question I had, which I don't think I've seen anywhere, Terry, is, was there any thought to how often we should meet? I mean, my own opinion is that monthly doesn't seem like it's enough, given that all we have to do, but I hesitate to ask people to meet more often until we get
Correct.
rolling. So, Terry?
I agree with both of those. Really up to the committee. You guys are serving out of the goodness of your hearts. If you only have time for one meeting a month, we understand. If you can go faster than that and meet twice a month, we would be thrilled. If you want to meet every week, we'd be even more thrilled. Whatever works for you guys. Also, you have to fit into everyone's schedules. This Thursday nights might be great for everybody. For me, as a select board liaison, I already have 2 other committees on Thursday nights. So I would come to some of your meetings, I guess, if Thursday at 7. If they're a little earlier or a little later, that would help. But that's the most popular time right now. But if that's the best time for you guys, by all means, go ahead.
So there was some difficulty in finding a meeting time. As I watched Erin go through that. And Thursday seemed to be the one date we could find that would work for us. Is that so we'll just go by everyone one at a time here and ask. Norm, Thursday, good for you? And are there other nights that are good, or any comments on meeting nights and frequency?
I mean, it's good for me right now. My job is pretty chaotic, so it could depend on what's going on work-wise.
Okay. Could you meet more often if you had to, or whatever, more than once a month?
Yes.
Okay. I hope we can avoid that. We may need to do it. I'm not sure. We may just have to call some special meetings, but if Thursday nights are good. So this is the first Thursday. If we're going to go monthly, is the first Thursday. So let me add that to the question. Our first Thursday is good. Maybe, well, actually not for me. Actually, for me, better would be second and fourth if we had to do a second one, but just let me collect that data. So Norm, again, any particular, if we're on a rhythm of, most of the committees will do something like Natural Resources does first and third Wednesdays, and I'm a member of that, so I'd rather not have two of them, one after the other. So I'd prefer the second and fourth, but that would work for you. Okay. Okay, Phil.
So Thursday's not a great night for me generally. I have another meeting that is every other Thursday, so it's not this week, fortunately. So my preference would be another weeknight. But you know, I think that this is an important thing to do, and I'll try to be flexible about it. I also think that it makes sense for us to meet more regularly than once a month to kind of get the ball rolling. So, you know, every
Okay.
other week for some period of time makes sense to me.
Okay. I'm gonna go to one more person and then maybe stop for a second. So let's see, Michelle.
I'm flexible in the evening, so Thursday works. Thursday works fine. Other nights could work as well, and no preference on which week. And then I also am happy to meet, particularly in the beginning. You know, if we wanted to do a sprint for 3 months or so, where we're meeting twice a month or something, just to get ourselves going, I think that'd be great. So.
Okay. Laura.
Yeah, I would second that. I like the 3-month sprint idea. Thursdays are okay for me. Mondays or Tuesdays would be my preference, and preferably first and third. I have conflicts on second and fourth sometimes. I do have a relatively heavy evening meeting schedule because of my job. So just to throw some chaos in there. Mondays or Tuesdays might be slightly better for me.
Okay. Dan?
Thursdays are okay. Wednesdays would be better. And I agree with Michelle that we should do the every other week until we get established.
What are other nights good for you?
Wednesday would be better.
Wednesday's better. Okay. How about Monday or Tuesday?
Tuesday's no good. Monday might work. Yeah, I could probably make Mondays work.
Okay. Let's see, who's next? Kathleen.
So Thursdays work great. Wednesdays are going to be a little dicey through the end of the year. But if I have them blocked out, I have some flexibility to make sure I don't commit. I have nighttime public meetings, but I can work around them if they're already on my schedule. And I love the idea of the 3 months.
What, how are Mondays for you?
I think Mondays would be fine. Yep.
Okay, let's do a quick poll. It sounds to me like Mondays might work and resolve some conflicts. So
although just because I said Mondays and Tuesdays before, Wednesdays, as long as it's not second and fourth, would be fine. So if we were doing like first and third Wednesdays, that would work fine for me, since several people voted for Wednesdays.
Yeah, I have natural resources, so I can't do
right
that.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I want to do a quick poll. Does Monday work? Norm, Monday works for you, you said?
Yes.
Okay. Phil, Monday? Phil,
Yes.
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 Okay. Dan, Monday?
Yeah. Yes, that'll work.
Michelle, Monday?
Yes, Mondays work.
Laura said, okay. And Kathleen, Monday's okay?
Yes.
Okay, I think we're gonna go with Monday. And
What
so
time?
7 o'clock seemed okay. I'd rather not go earlier myself, partly because I cook dinner for the household here. So
Nick, isn't the
Same.
select board
Not
meeting
earlier.
on
I could
Monday?
even go later.
yes, I think is 7. Does anyone have a problem with 7?
Does that conflict with select board?
Yes.
Oh, it does. Oh, Terry, it does, doesn't it?
Well, I'm only the liaison. You guys should do what works for you. But maybe I just want to make a couple of suggestions though. I don't know all of your schedules, but you might be able to do something like a 5 o'clock meeting or a noontime meeting, or maybe it doesn't have to be in the evening. I don't know, especially because you have Zoom. So that's just one idea. Also, I wanted to point out that when we were talking about Thursdays, there is a special town meeting coming up in January on a Thursday, September 20th. And actually, there's also a Thursday public hearing coming up, December 16th. And both of these are about the middle school. Big important topic coming up. So you may have a problem getting a quorum on those 2 Thursdays.
So, so are you okay? You said you're okay if we did Monday though? Terry?
I can catch up by watching the recording.
Okay,
And if we don't have a select board meeting, I'll be very happy to attend.
okay, and we can, if there's something we particularly think your needs your urgent attention, we'll contact you if that happens. So 7 o'clock on Mondays, okay, then the question is going to be which if we're going to start off with twice a month, second and fourth Mondays, okay? Anyone object to second and fourth Monday?
Unfortunately, I already have a conflict on the 13th, but I typically don't have Monday meetings.
Okay, so we might miss you on that one.
Nick,
Okay.
what about this idea of having a different time, maybe a 5 o'clock start? Does that improve?
I can't do 5 o'clock starts. It's just
Any night.
it's a family issue. It's just
Okay.
so seven's great for me. It just everything's over. I can get on with it. Okay, so second and fourth. So this is the first. So not. Well, we could try to do one next month. Let's not try to do one next Monday. That's crazy. So the following. So then we wouldn't have our next meeting until. Would the date be? December.
20th.
So the 20th. Okay.
Yeah.
So then the
On the
20th.
13th.
The
That's-
13th, right? Is that the second? Yeah.
Oh, that's the second. That's right. So the 13th, yes. And that's the one that Laura couldn't do. Okay.
Oh,
So we'll go for the
just
13th.
a quick proposal. Would it work for this next meeting for most people to have it on the 16th, which is a Thursday, which was sort of second best for most people? We could do it Thursday, the 16th, and then revert to Mondays starting the 27th. Does that work for everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would work for me.
So
The
the
only
second-
thing is, that is the night of the public hearing for the special town meeting. But you could catch up if you're interested in that. You could watch the recording. So
I do believe I have to be at the hearing, so just keep that in mind.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so not,
yeah.
we'll not do that then.
How about, how about the 15th instead of the 16th? That's a Wednesday, just to sort of.
No, I have natural
I have a
resources.
meeting.
You have NRC that night, okay,
I have a meeting as well.
okay.
How about the 14th to be thorough? Tuesday, the 14th.
14th works for me.
Oh, it doesn't work for Norman.
Okay. So we're gonna lose somebody if we go with the 13th.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, I'm sort of torn. I think we need to get started, so we might just miss you, Laura. But
I can come for the first 30 minutes and then I'll have to drop off.
we'll take whatever we can get. Okay, so the 13th and the 27th, and then thereafter the second and fourth Mondays. And is everyone okay with the one on the week of the 27th? A lot of people disappear or don't want to do anything that week. Michelle?
I personally, yeah, I'll actually have family in town that I haven't seen for a long time, so that one might be a little hard for me to
Okay.
escape a family dinner.
Let's say we're tentative on the 27th, then we'll just see what, as it gets closer, let's see what people's situation is and we'll decide whether or not to have that meeting. It's a tough time of year for meetings.
That sounds good.
Okay, so 20, maybe the 27th, the 6th, no, I'm sorry, the 13th and the 27th, maybe. Okay, so there we go. And committee correspondence, I think we've discussed that. Okay, there's a topic. I have to be careful about this because it's not on the agenda. So this is an FYI. There's no decision to be made or anything else. It came to my attention recently that there's a push to have a scenic roads bylaw. There is a state law that creates the possibility of towns designating scenic roads specifically for the protection of things like trees and stone walls on roads that have a historic nature and historic character, and of which there's actually some history for the road. I became aware of this and just personally became concerned because a very strict reading of that might prevent any changes at all to roads in town that, in my opinion, are extremely dangerous for bicyclists and pedestrians. On my own initiative, and not as a representative of the committee, I'm just informing you of this because we haven't put it on an agenda and can't discuss it. I intend to push for some changes to what's being proposed to acknowledge that if there are cases of public safety, that, you know, that as long as changes are in keeping with historic and aesthetic qualities of the road, that changes can be made. I have some specific wording I did that I don't have at my fingertips, but at any rate, I'm going to engage personally in this topic, not as a representative of the committee, but I will put it on the agenda for the next meeting. And that is all. Terry, was that okay the way I did it?
That's perfect. That's exactly why we have a transportation committee. Because at your next meeting, you can discuss it, figure out if this committee wants to take a position, work with the other committee that's proposing it, etc. This is
okay. If you could at least carry back to the select board that this is an issue we will be discussing, and which is going to be, I am sure it will be an interest. There will be a lot of interest in this committee. And I think it's okay. I did come up with a paragraph of wording that I forwarded to someone who's involved in this initiative that I would like to see included. I think it's okay for me to just send that around or post it somewhere. Probably best to post it publicly.
and it can be part of your meeting packet.
It will be. Okay.
If you want to talk about public safety or public works, you might want to invite the police,
Thank
CPW,
you.
or anybody else, or that committee that's proposing it. And I think it's the Historic Commission.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to invite them. However you want to approach it.
Great. Thank you for your feedback. Okay. So Terry, how do we do? It says liaison observer comments.
Fantastic. Thank you again. Thanks for volunteering to be chair, Nick. I've sent you and Erin that list that I was showing on the screen if you want to forward it. And I look forward to working with all of you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Public comment? Anyone in the gallery want to speak? Tanya?
Hi, and thank you very much for a well-run meeting. I wanted to say something about both the correspondence package that you have today, as well as a little bit about the general issue of the reformatory branch trail, about a little bit about its actual history in town. And I only found out about this meeting today, otherwise I may have written a letter to you in advance. As far as the correspondence goes, like as Terry said, there are a lot more letters. And the one in particular that is in your packet today, that was written at a time when the Trails Committee was discussing the reformatory branch trail. And the way it became an issue basically was because two members who are the two co-chairs of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail Committee wanted to make this, when they became co-chairs, they wanted to make this an issue to be discussed and wrote to the select board. Then they backpedaled saying, you know, well, just discuss it. And then we can see that in a video of Bedford bicycling subcommittee that there are people from Concord, including Mr. Posner. I know you don't mind, Phil, my saying this, it's just a history. Discussing, strategizing with Bedford about how to pave it eventually to town center. Bedford, on the other hand, in that same video says that, oh, they voted to pave because somebody was at the time saying that Concord was eventually going to pave. So most of the comments from the public, a huge majority, 99%, I would guess, are saying that the reformatory branch trail is fine as it is. It is currently a multi-use trail. Bicyclists use it of all levels, pedestrians use it, dog walkers use it, bird watchers, children, etc. And as such, it already is multimodal. It already is also an endangered species habitat. It's a beautiful path. It's good for reflection. Preserving nature is good for climate change. And it's really a very short path that just goes to Concord Center. And as such, it is not really a big issue. It's a big issue only because some people from out of town, some statewide forces are somehow seeing that as a part of their grand plan to pave that too. We are in Concord and from other towns using the trail in multimodal manner already. So I just, and also, I also want to point out that the select board has not really discussed the reformatory branch trail at all. It has been Terry's initiative to bring it an issue, to suggest that the transportation committee discuss it, to suggest that the select board discuss it. So it is really a lot of an individual initiative from Terry, although yes, she is select board chair. But I just want this sort of larger picture to be known. Clearly, there is going to be discussion about it because the cat is out of the bag and people are opining, but most people are opining it's fine as it is. I just wanted to put that out there. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. Any other public comment?
I just want to note we need a name and address from anybody who's making comments.
Oh, sure. 62 Prescott Road, Tanya Galis. Thank you, Erin.
Thank you.
Okay. I think we're about done.
I have a comment actually.
Oh, go ahead, Ned. Or no, I'm sorry. Who's it?
It's Brooks Reed, 366
Oh, Brooks.
366 Estabrook Road. Nick, I just want to say I'm very, very pleased you're on this committee, but I'm just noticing you're also on the NRC and you're not a representative of the NRC on this committee. Is that a violation of Act 10?
Terry, I believe that he has informed me that the select board has granted an exemption or changed the policy.
Terrific. I'm very, okay. Very glad to see you on this committee. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Terry, exactly what did the select board do? Is it an exemption or did they change the policy?
Right. We discussed it on a case-by-case basis. We grant exemptions. If the two committees don't have a conflict with each other, which in this case they don't, in our judgment.
Yeah, I think it's actually an asset to this committee in the case. Since I've got experience and actively involved in protecting the environment as part of the Natural Resources Commission, and I think that's been emphasized how important that is to what we're doing in transportation. So I agree that it's a sensible exemption. Thank you. Okay, no other
Hey, Nick?
comments?
Yeah,
Yes.
one question. Tanya referred to a bunch of letters. Is that something that we will all get access to?
Yeah, Terry, what is the status of this whole issue with the reformatory branch? Is that, where does that stand?
Okay. Tanya is the main person who has been discussing it. The select board, as Tanya said, has not really discussed it. We are looking for guidance from your committee on many issues, the reformatory branch being one of them. You have a lot of different stakeholders. You have pedestrians, you have bicyclists, you have people from out of town, you have all kinds of, you have the cemetery people, of the same kind of thing with Junction Park. You
Are,
have all kinds
are
of
we-
different stakeholders.
are we under some particular pressure to change the way things are because of the pending work that's being done on the trail from Bedford? Or is there a perceived pressure, or what's the situation?
Okay, perceived pressure. Some people might think there's pressure. Some people do not. My suggestion is that you put this on your agenda and start discussing it with all the stakeholders, and you guys decide. Do
Okay,
we need to change anything? Do we need to maintain it? Should we have a consultant? Do we need to do nothing? But
okay,
to hear from all, this is a lot of work, putting all those stakeholders together and really thoughtfully thinking it through.
okay. And Erin, I'll be with you in a second, Tanya. Erin, you could pull together whatever information, whatever letters, statements have been made publicly so that we can, my inclination would be to have someone on the committee just look at the whole packet and give us a summary of the situation rather than all of us pouring through all of it. And then, we could then go into it in depth based on that. Is that something would be
I
possible?
can try to work with the select board and the town manager's office to try to find and pull all those together. I'm sure they're
Okay.
a little bit scattered at this point, but I can.
That's
Right,
fine.
there,
with you.
there are many of them in selectmen packets from the last 12 months.
Okay, so Erin, I would just say whenever, you can conveniently get it together, then we'll put it on the agenda for, after that. If it's at the next meeting, great. If it's not, we'll do it in the future. But again, my inclination would be to have someone on our committee, not a subcommittee, but ask some individual to look through it all, to summarize it for us, and then make a presentation to us on, what the issues are and what decisions, if any, need to be made. Okay, Tanya, your hand was up again.
Yes, hi, 662 Prescott Road. You may also wish to watch some discussions that did take place already in committees, such as there is a video of the Transportation Advisory Committee's August 25th meeting where it was discussed. And the Trails Committee had a very informative, comprehensive discussion on it in October 26th, I believe, and the chair, Mr. Bob White, is present here. So those would be worthwhile to either read the minutes or listen to as well. And there, of course, there are also letters written to other committees too. So there may need to be some digging up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I actually have one last thing that I wanted
go
to
ahead.
ask about. Just because we didn't spend a lot of time talking about the agenda item related to reviewing available materials for our use going forward. And I just wanted to flag for this committee that the transportation and mobility was a very large part of the climate plan that the town drew together and was finalized in the middle of the pandemic. So it did get a lot of press because it was finalized when we were thinking about other things. But they drew heavily from the Envision Concord document. And so when we come to the discussion about how we prioritize those 40 pieces that are in the Envision Concord, it would be useful to cross-reference those two documents because I think that will do some of our work for us. So I just wanted to flag that.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else or a motion to adjourn? Either?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Second by Laura. Okay, vote. Laura,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Norm,
Aye.
Phil,
Aye.
Michelle,
Aye.
Kathleen,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. Thank you, everyone. We'll see.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
13th. And Laura, we'll miss you if you can't make it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. All right. Bye-bye.